Cool.
Jared, do you want to lead off the discussion with the blockers?
How about if, like, are there any blockers here that that I think, like, this was something that I just added today. Are there any blockers that we think are missing from the list? So what I'm thinking was just kind of like, I don't know if we want to speak through all of them in every meeting, but this seemed like a good meeting just to kind of have to keep tabs on them and to have a discussion on any new blockers that come up. I don't know.
I don't think I have anything new to add to this list, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's useful seeing them though, like, and sort of having a vague track on them, because especially as sort of random things are coming up. So I think it's useful seeing them, definitely.
Okay, cool. So let's just see how it goes. We'll leave them there, and we'll see if it's useful. So for the demo, I thought maybe we could look at the urgent other shard, but it's kind of a boring chart to look at because we're not doing any replica scaling, and there isn't like a lot going on in general because we, you know, are a bit over provisioned. What we looked at in the last meeting was we just looked at the cyclic dashboard and the node dashboard. We saw some interesting results on the node dashboard, like we're seeing these disk utilization spikes. If you give me a minute, I can find it. One thing I will say that's difficult is to find the node dashboards because we only have IP address.
There's an issue for that.
Of course there is.
It's the one about coming up with a new descriptor, like to replace FQDN, that works inside and outside Kubernetes equally.
Anyway, let me share my screen here. This is one of the urgent other nodes. So if we look at like over the past 7 days, if this works. So first thing to notice is that like we are fairly underutilized on this. Well, I don't know what this big like CPU utilization spike is here, but you know, we're seeing like these spikes that I think are happening during deploys because this is when we're, you know, bringing on new pods. But generally speaking, feels like we're a bit over provisioned. We could probably go with a smaller instance type. You can see like things kind of come in and out during working hours. We were looking in the last meeting about these interesting disk utilization spikes. If you look over like the past 6 hours, maybe we'll see it clearer. Yeah. So this is curious, right? Like what's going on here? This is SDA1. Is this being like, are these like, is this disk being utilized in the pod? Is it something else on the node maybe? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be urgent other, it could be fluentd, it could be something else. So I think we need to dig into this. But other than that, I don't think there was much else that came out of our, you know, came out of the last meeting. Does anyone have any theories about disk utilization? I wasn't really sure either.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same thing that we see saturating SDA on so many of the nodes, that we had to turn off the saturation. And when I haven't looked at that, FluentD was often
Yeah.
So I think you've onto an interesting thread there.
Yeah.
What do we know what the impact is once it hits 100%? Does it just wait? Do things just wait, or do they start failing?
I
No,
don't
it's pretty
know.
soft.
Yeah, it seems pretty soft. We're not seeing like errors related to this, and I assume that pods are just being terminated when this happens, and then the space is freed.
We should
This
start looking
SD
into. Sorry, go ahead, Alessio.
Thank you, Scarbeck. But this SDA1 disk is the disk on the node, so it's the first disk attached to the node.
Yeah, it's the root volume, and this what I was talking about was in the sort of in the VM world, not in the Kubernetes world. But we see like we put monitoring on it, so we wanted to see if disk utilization on all of the disks was beyond the spec that Google give us. And it was a super noisy alert, and it was very unactionable because we see lots of breaching of the thresholds, but it didn't actually really make very much of a difference. So we've just eventually turned it off.
No, because it really depends on how the nodes are handled by Google Cloud Platform. Because if this is the underlying disk where, for instance, the images get downloaded and stored on disk. So during a deploy, we re-download images of the things that we run, for instance. But also, what I'm thinking is that I'm not sure if this behaves the same on Kubernetes, but in plain Docker, basically every disk is an AOFS layer. So if you start writing on something that is not declared as a volume in the image, you're basically writing on the underlying disk, because it creates snapshots. So every command should just write the state of the file system after the command is executed. I don't know, maybe it's completely unrelated, but it really depends on what is on those disks.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll open up an issue and we can dig into it. I just replied to your comment, Andrew. Like, I don't think this is related to FQDN. I think this is just what we have for identifying nodes.
Yeah, if you read through, like Ben suggested, we switch them over to pod. There's a whole discussion, and I'm pretty sure it's the same
Okay.
thing.
But we're
Yeah,
not
yes.
using FQDN here. We're using the
Yeah.
instance. Okay.
But we should come up with a scheme that we use inside and outside. And there's a whole discussion. It's definitely related, because if we switch over to using pod name, for example, in the instance, that'll make it a lot clearer than using IP address and IP address ports, which is what we're using at the moment, which is kind of difficult to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Switch it to node name, you mean, right? Node name, not pod name.
Well, inside so outside it'll be node name : and then inside it will be pod name : port. But at the moment, inside Kubernetes, it's IP address : ports, and that's like, who knows what's going on. And then what I would also prefer, but I don't think Ben and I see eye to eye on this yet, is a label that defines like where something is running that's the same inside and outside Kubernetes. Because at the moment, we have like graphs that show things that are kind of half inside Kubernetes and half outside Kubernetes, and it's kind of difficult to graph them because we don't have a common label for pod and FQDN, right? Which is something we need. But Ben's idea is that we just use instance for that, and it kind of works as long as instance makes sense. And at the moment, instance is useless. So read the issue. I'm sure it's related.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really. Yeah, I'm thinking about this too. Like maybe we would want type and tier on these metrics as well as things like shard and other labels.
Well, Skarbek and I just had a call about that, which was about making sure that we apply the same label taxonomy. You know, the issue I was pinging you about yesterday.
Yeah, I know which one.
Yeah.
But this
And
is tricky with Node though, right? Because nodes can have multiple shards. They could even have multiple types, as we've defined type.
no, so we will only do everything to the pod level, I think. And we're going to actually have two. Well, the thing that I was talking to Skarbek about was that we have two. So there's the one, the normal ones, which is type, shard, and stage. And those actually talk about the Kubernetes infrastructure, right? So type will be kube or K8s or whatever we choose to call that service. But the second one will be like workload underscore, and this is in the issue, I pinged you on it. It'll be like workload underscore shard, and that refers to the workload that Kubernetes is running and what shard that is, what service that is, and what stage that is. And because at the moment we're trying to extract all of that using nasty regular expressions, and so this would simplify that. I pinged you on the issue, and
yeah,
I think
okay, I'll take a look. I'll take a look.
Cool. Okay.
So
I've actually got to run to a meeting with Ben, but so.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay.
And we had a small discussion about the kubectl, running kubectl in production, along with running Helm in production. I think we sort of didn't come to any new conclusions from that discussion other than we need to scope out what the next steps are, and I created an epic for that, but we don't have issues, and I'm not really sure. I think this is not on like my top priority.
I was actually wondering, like, are we the people to pick the next issues? Like, it sort of seems to fit across so many teams. I was kind of unclear how we actually, like, it seemed to me that there's so many options of how we could do it, and it seemed that maybe security is the overall driver for which one we pick. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I guess Craig Barrett was taking this up for Rails console access, and maybe we can work together with reliability. But yeah, I think we need to. Maybe I can. I hate to like add it to the DNA agenda because I'm not sure if that will go anywhere. It might be better just, Amy, maybe we should get together in a smaller group with reliability to discuss it, because I would like to share the work, but I'm not sure how that would go.
That makes sense. So how about leave it with me and I'll find out who we need to actually be able to make the decisions, and then we can get that group together and actually work out what we want to do.
Yeah. The idea we were talking about, or Graham mentioned that, you know, kubectl will soon have proxy support, and we were discussing like maybe keeping with the tunneling idea, we would have an ephemeral proxy or even an ephemeral SSH console server that you would spin up temporarily to connect to production, and that would solve, having an ephemeral would solve the problem where like you don't want to run, you know, commands against production unless if you're absolutely certain that that's what you want to do and you have an issue for it and all that. So anyway, that's I think all we have on the discussion. Not much to demo. Maybe we can just talk a little bit about what we're going to do for next week.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Skarbek, do you have anything that you would think we can demo for next week?
I don't know if I'll have anything to demo, but I do have some goals. Today, we are currently moving one of the known NFS required worker queues into catch-all. So I'm hoping by the end of today, I'll have a good evaluation as to whether or not we're still writing anything to NFS with the urgent CPU bound shard. So hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have identified another queue and maybe migrated it off as well. Since that's a blocker from us moving the urgent CPU bound over to Kubernetes, I'm not attempting to do any work related to spinning up a node pool and creating on the Kubernetes configuration at this moment in time. I'm just trying to do evaluations at the moment.
Cool. So I just put like either we'll demo that we have more queues that depend on NFS, or hopefully demo that we have no queues that depend on NFS left, and then
we could start.
And then who knows? I mean, I guess it depends how that goes. It could be that I guess the best case would be we migrate that queue. We have 48 hours of not seeing any NFS traffic, and we unmount NFS on the VMs.
Yep. In the worst case, we either revert back or we emergency situation move a queue over to catch-all at the last moment. Hopefully not the latter, though. Hopefully not either, technically, but.
Cool. For me, well, like I was really hoping to have like this console thing demoed by the next Friday, but I think I might be in corrective action land for the next day or two, or early next week. So I'm not sure how much work I'm going to be able to get done. It's semi-blocked right now. I actually marked the issue as blocked because of we don't have a way to regenerate keys because of the CA. We're currently using expired certificates in production for consoles. So I opened up an issue for that. Reliability took it up. So I think I'm going to wait to see if we can regenerate the keys, and then that will unblock me.
At what point do we decide that we just need to do this ourselves?
At no point I hope to decide. Like I really hope to. I think like for the key regeneration, I'm hoping reliability can take that up. I don't particularly want to do that, but yeah. If we have to be closely involved with that, we'll see. I think Dave has already taken the reliability label on it, and I think was added to a milestone. So maybe that will be fine. Cool.
All right.
And scalability, I was just trying to get the latest status. They're still working on it, but scalability are optimizing database connection pool usage. So they reckon by the end of today, hopefully, they will have managed to configure the database connection pool in Kubernetes to be similar to how it was configured in the VMs. So
great.
I don't think that latter part is accurate.
Oh.
Is there an issue discussing that somewhere?
Yes. I'll stick it in there.
Because I know the chef configuration was either merged yesterday or maybe early this morning, but I know there may be some work that's required in the distribution team for that. Yeah, currently no one's assigned to the K8s related work on that issue, or that epic rather.
I can find out more if helpful.
It looks like they're still, oh no, it looks like they completed the triage work on it.
It should have been in yesterday's infrastructure meeting that they will be actioned by the end of the week. Oh no, sorry. So the change request for adding headroom on production will be actioned by the end of the week, and then they'll also be configuring database connection pool. So coming soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were going to use the environmental variable instead of a chart configuration. That's right. Okay.
Cool.
So that might take less time than initially thought, which is pretty cool.
Great.
Okay.
Cool. And Alessio, are you like, do you need anything with the proposal, the multi-cluster proposal or anything like that?
Not at the moment, because I've spent the last 2 months delaying Yorick's work. So right now I'm mostly helping him in reviewing the things that I just delayed. So that's my main goal for now.
Okay, makes sense. Cool. So do we have everything we need for next steps? Sounds like everybody's got enough stuff to be getting on with.
I'm definitely set on my side.
I'm set on my side too.
Amazing. I am spending my days trying to dig through all the issues and epics and things like that. So hopefully I'll emerge out with a better understanding of how all the pieces fit together.
Cool. Sounds good.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Great weekend.
Have a great
Yep.
weekend.
I have a great weekend.